Great time to start a new business.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I was very successful at the stay-at-home part.
As many of us were. So the style and aesthetic you have now is a little different than the more graphic stuff you were doing back then. Now, we're going to take a turn here to your new work. And obviously, people can see it on Insta. What are your main categories of work? Is it just paintings, or do you do prints? Do you do editions? Like, what kind of works are you selling these days?
I've been selling mostly paintings. I've been fortunate to do that, in private. And as much as I gripe about Instagram, oftentimes it can start from a DM.
Yeah, almost always.
But yeah, I'm also doing art fairs here and there. Stylistically, yeah, very different. It's definitely been an evolution. And also the pandemic was good for that because I felt Goku and Dragon Ball Z. I went into the hyper chamber, and it's 1 year equals, or 1 day equals 1 year, and you just train all the time. So I feel like my work technique and the style just really evolved a lot in 2020 and 2021. A lot of it is very abstract or abstract impressionism, if you will. Color has always been a very natural, intuitive thing for me. I pushed that, and in the pandemic, I had this idea to, like the great impressionist painters, right? I'm going to paint the sunset every day. And I did that, but all I really primarily had was, and what I was used to using was spray paint. So I got really good at using spray paint in very diffuse ways and creating gradients and either super smooth textures or very heavy textures. And I still enjoy that. And the gradient stuff is a big part of my work. Mostly, I think, because it's meditative, can sometimes be a struggle while doing it, but then the end result is like this very serene, peaceful visual. And then it often leads to a discussion of sorts where people see it and they're like, wow, that makes me feel this, or this makes me think of that. And I think that's the other side of my work is I like the communication aspect. I like connecting and hearing how people interpret the work. To me, once I've done it, right? On to the next one. But yeah, so my work is very much abstract expressionism. I did also start getting into painting figures, and that does call back to my design background more. So I'll design the figure and then paint it and then use those painting techniques in creating that piece. But lately, I've kind of taken, not the figure stuff, but I've been incorporating more form into my work because the abstract gradient stuff can be very just like amorphous and just like floaty or whatever, which is great. But I've started incorporating that either in kind of creating geometric or competing gradients, and then going a little further and essentially taking inspiration from mosaics and pixel art. A lot of the work I've been making this year has been inspired by that. One of the more recent commissions I had was a large version of that where essentially I made a gradient, but make it pixel.
Good. Yeah, I like your gradient work a lot. That's probably where I found, like, I'm very attracted to the kind of very gentle gradients. Those always intrigue me. Now, so it's mostly one of one originals for the most part.
I am starting to do more prints.
Okay.
I found these people who can appropriately scan my work, because that's the one thing about this technique, or the technique I have, is you can't just it's really hard to capture. Like, you can take a photo, sure, but if you were to do like a high res scan to then reproduce, it can ruin the effect.
Okay.
And it can show a lot of the breaks or the different
the
layers. Yeah, the subtleties which your eye is naturally covering over. And these folks are really good at getting right in between. So you're getting all the detail, but then making the colors, capturing them in such a way that it reproduces it how you would see it if you were in front of the actual piece. So I'm starting to do more like that.
Okay.
And I guess because, like we were talking about, the two sides of the brain, I can't shut off the business side. And it's a blessing, I guess, that I've achieved any level of success already in art. So I think it allows for me to be like, my art is my art, and I have no control over how it's perceived. So my fine art, I'm going to keep doing. I'm going to keep trying to grow it. I'm going to do all of that. But these other ideas I have, instead of trying to shoehorn them into my fine art, which is very jarring, it's here's this large abstract sunset painting. And then, oh yeah, here's some highly detailed illustration that I came up with. Or here's this really funny sticker that I just wanted to make. So I've now hit on an idea of creating a house, a design house, a studio, whatever you want to call it, business brand, for all that other stuff that it's not going to have my name on it. It's my thing, but there's Adrian, the fine art, and then there's my new brand, whatever you want to call it, and that'll house everything else. And that's where I can get weird. I got this one shirt. It literally just says fuck on it, but it doesn't actually say fuck. You know what it says, but it technically doesn't say it.
And connection shirts that's spelled it right backwards.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have this really dumb but funny idea for a commercial that sort of think like 90s Calvin Klein commercials, black and white kind of thing. So that's one of my fun projects for the summer. I'm just going to make this silly video and put it out there. And if people also want to buy the shirt, they can buy the shirt. Yeah. That's what I'm working on now, is kind of like defining the two columns.
And you keep they both keep you somewhat interested. Would you consider yourself prolific? Do you make a lot of art, or does it take weeks? Like, are you a piece a day kind of guy? Are you a piece a week, a piece a month?
I tend to work in sprints. So I'm always thinking, I'm always like writing stuff down. And because my music background, like oftentimes it's like words or phrases or lines, and I'll write those down and then I'll pair them when I create a visual. I'm like, this kind of feels like that. So I'm always doing stuff like that. Or if there's a color scheme or palette or whatever I see in my head, I'll either mock it up real fast in Photoshop or I'll write it down. As far as actual painting though, I am about to get into a production mode, and like I'm building a lot of canvases right now, getting some panels made up, and I'll probably spend 2 months or so just painting. Sometimes a couple hours a day, sometimes all day. But I'd say my abstract stuff, if I'm really in that mode, I could bang out, depending on the scale of it, a piece a day or a piece every couple days. My figure stuff can take anywhere from, if I'm only doing that, like a week to a month. Okay. And the more form I incorporate, the longer it takes, because the design background in me, I'm very precise. I use X-Acto knives and razors and a lot of tape, a lot of masking. Okay. That takes a lot of time. But yeah, I'm trying to, as I get older, create a healthier work balance rather than just binging or sprinting all the time. But yeah, still haven't quite got there yet.
Now, because of your background and the fact that you've had this other art adjacent business, where do most of your sales come from? Do you have an email list that you've built over time? Are you mostly galleries? Are you mostly online? What are the channels that seem to be serving you best?
For me, like I said, the last couple of years has really been a rebuilding period, if you will, and really been in the woodshed most of the time. I have been doing art fairs and then building a network that way, largely through social media. So again, people following me and then DMs. I am working on being better about emails. That's something I need to prioritize more, simply because, every time they change the algorithm, you're fucked. So the email, your website, that's the domain you have control over. So that's something I want to prioritize more. I'm really an in-person kind of guy, but I'm trying to figure out how to translate that to social media. There was a time period where I was super heavy on social media, and I've really been enjoying not being that way. But it's a necessary tool, right? Like, I don't deride social media as like a all-encompassing evil. I think it's evil how it incorporates itself into daily life and how unaware to yourself allow it to dictate your life. But it's work. I think taking control of how I use social media and really prioritizing it as a tool, especially marketing tool, is the necessary path going forward in terms of increasing sales and followers and all of that. There's just no way around it right now. I don't see us putting the genie back in the bottle. So
For sure not. No, and for all intents and purposes, it works pretty well. Are you on any other platforms besides Instagram, or is that like your focal point of attention?
I technically have a TikTok. I need to make more videos, more content. Yeah, I don't know, I've been very fortunate that people have had an interest and supported me in this time period. But like I said, it's been a rebuilding phase. And now just recently in the last 9 months or so have I started to have more of a clearer picture of, okay, this is what that is. Here's how we're going to grow them. And so that's where I'm at, because I'm really blessed to be able to do what I do. But like anyone who does their own thing, like I know I can do more. I want to do more. I want to find contentment, but I know I can do better, and I'll be content when I start doing better. I don't know. That's the business in me.
Yeah, when you run an enterprise, you can always like, I don't know, contentment. It's fading. Like you're content until you're at the top of the next mountain, and then you realize you're not content anymore, and then you think that the place that you always dreamed about getting that would solve all your woes, and then you get there and you're like, I could really probably do a little better.
I feel like that's still there. I'm more self-aware, so I try not to let it affect me as much, certainly not in a negative way. But it's like how my gradient pieces are meditative in their own way. I find it's more the process that I really enjoy of creating. And once I've created it, it's like, all right, what's the next thing that I can create? What can I work on? Because it's fine if you want to just do something to do it. I feel like that's a hobby, and hobbies are wonderful.
Right.
Like I love to cook. I'm not going to open a restaurant, but
far as like,
yeah, I think about it a lot, but I'm not going to do it.
Good choice.
Yeah, but no, that's really it, right? Is if you enjoy the process and you enjoy playing the game, so to speak, then it isn't about I want to do better so I can do better financially. That comes with it, ideally. But it's more that I did this and I did it well. What's the next thing I can do from this? How can I grow it? And I find that process, whether it's in the marketing sales aspect of it or the actual creative process, that's really what I find enjoyable.